August 8th, 2022, regular board meeting briefing video. So we have our normal structure at the beginning of the meeting, which is different. It's a little different on this one because after our fire department report, we have a new firefighter ceremony. So, which is great. Shai's becoming a full firefighter. Been training and working on that for quite a while, so that'll be very good. And then we have our planning commission meeting after that, first public comment, and then we're into our decision items. And first one is 2370 Duff House bid opening. And on this, I have taken a number of people. I ran ads in the Chronicle and the Beacon and the Shopper and the Buyer's Guide and on MLive, and had a number of people contact, have had a number of walkthroughs, have at least one more walkthrough to go over the weekend, have one sealed envelope. Hopefully it's a bid, not a letter saying something else, because it's still sealed, but nevertheless. Moving forward on that. And next we have money to sewer debt. And we did this once before. It's $213,000. And I should have just written the motion differently at that time because we plan on putting $500,000 from property sales into the ongoing sewer debt. And there's a bunch of details about that. If anyone's interested, let me know. I've been discussing it for quite a long time. And the last one I did that specific amount. And the idea is that it goes into the trusted agency account and then it moves out of there. The trusted agency account really isn't designed. It's not supposed to be holding large amounts of money for a long period of time. It's to move things through. And I thought that we might have the full amount or the full rest of the amount, a little less than $300,000 by now. We don't quite have it generated from that revenue. We're getting close. It should be in the next couple of months. But nevertheless, we'll probably have to do two transactions, and instead of bringing each of those for separate specific amounts to the board, this one I wrote so it's just up to that $500,000, which if I did the first time, then we wouldn't have to have another motion. But nevertheless, that's what that is. Next, we have Lake Avenue and Duff Road streetlight, and this is... well, it's a major deal for the people, but a minor deal, at least finance-wise. And on that corner, which is right near one of the lakes, if people are coming down Duff, headed west, it's a sharp turn. I mean, it's a curve, right? It's not like it's a four-way, but it's 90 degrees, and a number of times people have gone straight over a number of years, and right through these people's yard. There's a dirt berm put in place because of that happening. Someone even ramped that accidentally. They ramped that and took out their shed, and I think at one point they got the trailer hit, and the road commission's looking at putting some chevrons there. Right now they have cones and they have that dirt berm, but there's a pole just on that same corner just across the street that doesn't have a street light on it, and the people had said that they've been inquiring about getting a street light on there for years. I talked to consumers about it. Because there's already a pole in place, they will put the light up for $100, and I said, okay, go ahead and do it, add more visibility to this corner, and hopefully at night people make that curve instead of going straight. And apparently the last crash almost made it all the way into the lake. And consumers got back to me that it appears that all of the stuff that goes through consumers, whether it's a very large deal or a small deal, they need a resolution. And so, because I checked, I was like, do you need a resolution for $100? And they were like, yes. And so I have that resolution, and then the contract has to be adjusted specifically by the clerk even. So they have specific processes that utilities go through. So that's why that's in here. Next, we have increasing the credit limit, and currently the credit limit is $2,500 for each of the cards for the clerk and treasurer. And just today we didn't have an account at Menards, but we need some crack filler because we want to do some sealing on the bike trail to try to make it last longer and in better shape. And so I ended up having the treasurer's card being used for buying that crack filler at Menards. And so you could make the case that it would be useful for me to have that card and just give it to them and go grab that type of stuff. But I don't see the need for that. But I did recently go to do the website because I'm getting things going on Municode, so the ordinances will be more accessible and better organized down there, along with meeting minutes and meeting packets and those types of things. And getting rolling on that type of stuff, it's taking a decently long time to get up, probably a few more months get that stuff up and going. And then want to redo on the website. and found a company that'll do it, and they'll do the updates and stuff for us. And notices are very important for keeping all the meetings legal, and I want better communication and more access to these things. And the company that I was talking to on that, we won't have to handle those types of updates in-house. We can send them stuff and say, put this up, which is very nice. And they were offering a discount during the 1 week. And so for a year, it came to a little over $2,000. And because of this discount, I think it would have otherwise come to a little over $3,000, and you get to lock in the rate. So over time, it's going to save the township money. In a longer period of time, a decent amount of money. And so it's a little over $2,000. They do everything through cards, because otherwise I was like, just invoice us. Normally they do monthly, which is what they originally wanted to do. I said, well, why not? Let's do 12 months and just make it simple. That way we have to process less paperwork for the payments and everything here through the clerk and treasurer's office. And so I had the clerk's card and put it on there, but she had already bought a few $100s worth of stuff for running the elections. And so the card didn't go through. And I looked into increasing the credit limit. I was like, I approve this transaction going through, increase it a little bit so that this can go through, and it couldn't. So I had to switch that payment over to monthly. But on here, this is a proposal to bring both the treasurer and the clerk's credit card limits up to $5,000 each, which is $15,000 total, because it's the same number for the fire chief. So $15,000 total for the township on that. Resolution 2022-17 for ARPA fund expenditures. And obviously we did one of these before, working on those projects, and the security cameras, including the one on the drop box, are up, which is important going into this November election, I think. So that's reasonable. And the audiovisual system is delayed. We all know about the logistical issues in the world. So hopefully in the next couple of months that gets in, so there's better audio and video in the meetings, and a bunch of other stuff. The websites were on there, Municode is on there. But on this, only 3 things I've included to kind of take things away a bite at a time. One is a truck for maintenance, which is their vehicles are a pretty penny, and then a lawnmower, also not the cheapest expense. So both those are on there. And then the other one is Catalpa. And the way I wrote it up is as $20,000 towards Catalpa, and then I'll just direct it. I'll take the equipment that's out there that's really bad, get that taken out, the swings and that type of thing, and replace it with a few other items, not go wild with it. I think it might even be reasonable to reduce that number down to $10,000, but maybe $20,000 is reasonable. And, the board has been having discussions on these, and it's so easy to think that the $846,000 from ARPA funds is a lot of money. And a lot of people, if you're looking at it personally, that would be a lot of money. For the township, it's not a ton of money. And so there's a lot more that we could expend on that than what we're going to have. And I want to expend at least half of it on roads. I think is very important. We've already approved $200,000 on roads. So I think that's important to continue and to not let these other things get out of control, obviously. But to contribute something to the upkeep of those as well. Next, we have the Central Road paving petition, and this happened because the guy that was putting together the petition, he saw the process and the numbers really on Michelinda, and he was surprised by how cheap it was, and the project came in at that lower amount, a significantly lower amount than he would have expected. And so he's been thinking about it for years on Central. He's lived there for decades. And of course, as the area develops, you get more and more traffic, and then there's always a lag time because someone has to pay for the paving of the road. And so we got this petition together for the unpaved portion of Central Road in between Bard and Riley Thompson, with over 90% of the people, I think it's 92-93% of the people on that section had signed the petition. And so a decent amount. So we'll start that process. Obviously, the last process took us about 12 months total to get through all the paperwork. And so hopefully this one could go a little faster, but there'll be, accepting the petition. Then the road commission has to draw up their numbers and everything. And I had them informed that this is coming their way. And then we have our 4 resolutions, which some people reduce down to 3 meetings, but I want to do them in 4 so that people can object and word can get out there more, and there's a little more notice and that type of thing, just like on the last one. And so that hopefully, if it moves a little faster and it fully goes through the whole process and gets approved the whole way, it could happen next summer. Next, we have our discussion items. The first one being the lake channel easement and beach use. And I mean, the channels didn't go well as a project, right? I would call it a failed project. And I stop out every now and then and check out the state of those things. And obviously the water's dropped off a ton because it was right at its peak of the cycle when they did the whole ride drain channel thing. And so it was dropping there anyways. And now it's dropped. The channels there's not water flowing in between the lakes in either of the channels, but I stop out to kind of check on the state of those things. And the one neighbor I was talking to on the channel between Twin Lake and Middle Lake, he was saying that people are coming onto that easement and using it to walk down to the lake, which is not a public easement. It very specifically says in the agreement with the landowner, which wasn't this neighbor, it's the other one, which I've talked to before. This time he did just seem angry and certainly short. But the one guy I had a nice conversation with, and I've talked with everyone on those before along those easements and along the channels. And this guy had said, that he was questioning if that's a public easement. And so I looked it up, and it very specifically is not a public easement. It's just for the maintenance of the channels. And he said the other thing that's happening is people are even riding their boats over to that area. And he keeps a little green zone on Twin Lake, which is nice because it helps out the health of the lake, from what I understand. And that's a lot of times why there's regulations put in place to keep green zones, so you can't just turn everything into beach. It's a little harder on the lake. And people are thinking that I'm not sure exactly what they're thinking. They're thinking it's some sort of public park or something like that, and it's not. It's just the guy's personal private property, and so they're pulling their boats over there and then getting off the boats and pulling lawn chairs and everything else up into his yard. And so the one section looks kind of wild, but even the section that he keeps mowed and fenced in, he said people have been coming up there as well. And so I told him, I'd put it into the meeting as a reminder that the easement to the channel is not a public easement, and that the beach there is also private property, in the wetland area and the grassy area is private property as well. Next, we have the dog park, and so I got a quote on this for Beagle Field. It's been being discussed among the board and some of the citizens in the township, I know, for a little while. And so I had a company, a professional fencing company, do the quote, and that information is in there. And because you need to be able to get access to maintenance and these types of things, and dogs coming in and out and not getting them released, there's a double gating system wide enough for equipment to get through and things like that. And not a small amount. This came in at $30,000 for the fencing and the installation of the fencing, and then it had been discussed before, mentioned by trustees, that it'd be nice to have a well, so you're tacking on another $10,000, approximately there, so you're up to about $40,000 for the price of a dog park, and so I think that's, it's, highly debatable, and so I have that on here as a discussion item. Next, we have the mandatory water connection ordinance. And this has been being discussed among the Water Policy Board, the Regional Water Policy Board. And the big question before was financing those projects and making sure that they are properly financed so that there's not large gaps of money. And that's why there's some of that. And if you have too many exemptions, then that doesn't work great. And so that's how the discussion had started. The way it ended up is it's coming in a little later on the exemptions, and so which I think is pretty solid, especially where the discussion had started. And this is essentially just an FYI for people. The Water Policy Board should be voting on that next month, I believe, and then it'll come to the local municipalities. And this is one of those government structure things that is not well structured, because the Water Policy Board has to pass something, then each of the local municipalities have to pass the same thing, and if that's not in alignment, there's no good solution to that other than a lawsuit, which I've brought up in the meetings a number of times, having some sort of conflict resolution. And in the contract and the memorandum of understanding with that board, the committee on that, which I'm not on, but they said they are discussing that as part of that process, so that would be good, because eventually there's going to be conflicts, of course. Next, we have another cell tower proposal. And apparently American Tower is they're looking and pushing hard at cutting costs, because this is another company or subsidiary, something like that they've had to reach out to people about this. And so, the last one we ended up not doing anything with, and I think that's fairly reasonable, but we'll see. Next, we have the vacation policy, and I have this as a discussion item. Obviously, I've been discussing it for a little while. I wrote up a version that I'm guessing is going to at least be changed somewhat, and if we can get on a decent page on this, we can probably bring it for a vote next month on the board, but we'll see on how much people agree and disagree on that. And so that brings us through all of the items here, and this board packet is fully available as a scanned PDF on the website, and I'm working on making it available on Unidocs as well. It's technically up on there, so I might post that, but I'm restructuring that too, so I don't want to confuse people on the access. And then the reference packet is fully available on the site as well. And what I've gotten here is additional consumers energy streetlight information, because they'd sent a decent packet on this. The only things that we really need in the board packet are the resolution and the contract, I think. Technically, we probably don't even need those, but the other information they send to, even the drawing of where it would be and that type of stuff, I included in here. Next, we have an article about American Tower that had been emailed to me when I was talking to them when they were contacting me about the cell tower proposal. And I also have the original cell tower lease agreement, the first amendment to the cell tower lease agreement, and an amendment form that they sent me about the cell tower lease. So those are the next few items. Next, I have truck quotes, and next I have lawnmower quotes, and then I have Appendix 1 of Systemantics by John Gall, and it's a great book. It's one of those kind of like slightly humorous but also very true things, and I got this book recommendation from Elon Musk, actually, off of one of his reading lists, and read it a number of years ago, and it's very good. The Appendix 1 goes over a bunch of the rules or ideas, the theories, the propositions. And the basic idea of it is that systems don't function well. And it has a bunch of great observations in there over just a very short number of pages. And then next, and finally, I have The Uncertainty of Values from the Meaning of It All by Richard Feynman. This is chapter 2 of that book. Richard Feynman, obviously being one of the most famous physicists in history and, amazing teacher. A lot of people love him. The Meaning of It All is a book put together on 3 speeches that he made evaluating values in the society and how science interacts with that and that type of thing. And so a lot of great observations there that really pertain to the society at large, and what a lot of the stuff we're doing here and a lot of the conflicts that are occurring in the political system, all the way from village, township, county, state, national, international. And so a lot of important stuff there about, and it's a few decades old and a lot of good observations, and you can kind of see some of maybe why we went down the road that we have as a society. So if anyone has any questions, thoughts, ideas, comments, concerns, feel free to reach out. As always, my direct line is area code 231-332-6700, or email supervisor@daltontownship.org. Otherwise, this is Jeff signing off, and I will see you at the meeting. Or, we can record it and you can watch it at home, which is more convenient and allows more access, which soon we'll have a better audiovisual system for that, hopefully in the next couple of months. All right, until next time.